An extraterrestrial alien civilization took over Earth July 29, 1203 BC. And we have a report of the description of these extraterrestrials and also what their crafts look like. The first account of this event, written by a scribe and temple minister, describes awe, fear, and bewilderment. The second account describes a meeting between the scribes and priests of the temple of Horus and Osiris, who discussed the incident. The meeting of the priests of Egypt was caused by concern about the socio-religious impact of the appearance of two celestial lights that were observed by many inhabitants of Egypt. The territory over which the flight of these UFOs was observed was approximately 700 kilometers, basically along, from what I saw on the maps, the River Nile. In the previous video today that I posted, something very strange having to do with extraterrestrial UFOs and water bodies, like lakes and oceans and rivers. They're somehow attracted to what bodies of water on our Earth. So the meetings of these priests was caused by concern about the socio-religious impact of the appearance of these two celestial lights that were observed by many inhabitants of Egypt. The territory over which the flight of these UFOs was observed was about 700 kilometers. The assessment of what happened was carried out through the existing religious beliefs in Egypt. The physical characteristics and harmful effects of this anomaly were evaluated. These reports have been documented in writing on stone slabs in great detail. The abduction and mutilation of people is mentioned there many times. There are 48 records of the incident in the list. 2 limestone slabs known to Egyptologists as ostraka. These two ancient, which is a Greek word, of course, these two ancient text reports were discovered by archaeologists about 1890 to 1920 during the excavation of Ramses on the ruins of the city of Oyast in Thebes. They were written in hieratic script. Hieratic script is one of the forms of Egyptian writing, hieroglyphs, used to write texts in Egyptian. The official archaeology ignored the facts stated in the records because they did not like their content, which could cause controversy unnecessary to science and in society. And it's because of their content that they're not known to the general public, and among the official archaeologists there is mention of them that they do not deserve attention since they describe the well-known rituals of the priests of that period. And the writer says, I was able to find a complete official account of the scientist Egyptologist Edward McBride, detailing this find and the information contained in these ancient texts. This article will provide a translation of the scientific work on my own thought on this matter. On the annotation, he writes, this report, controversial as it may be, is dedicated to all Egyptologists of the past and present who devote countless hours, years, and even whole lives to ensure that ancient Egypt never truly died and continues to inspire future generations for explorers in many ways. The unique culture and daily life of these first inhabitants along the Nile is becoming closer thanks to the dedication of people like Yaroslav Cherny, Alan Gardiner, Adolf Ehrman, E.A. Wallace Budge, and many others, whose ability to unravel the historical and linguistic complexities of Egypt helped to learn its history. Special thanks to the Griffin Institute and Ashmolean Museum for the use of the indicated plates and the reports of the priests. Hieratic Ostraka, Volume 1. Introduction. I've been studying hieratic writing for years, and I find these two examples of ancient writing unique because they describe a very unusual event. I've used every means to correctly determine the time frame of this event. 1203 BC is the period is established on the basis of the information available about the scribes. One of them is associated with the reign of Seti II, and the other with Ramesses III shortly thereafter. These two records of the anomalous event are ignored by Egyptologists as they were catalogued magical in the hieratic Ostraka Volume 1 Index, where they are considered to be a description of heaven based on the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. In fact, they tell us what happened then, and we see, quote unquote, it through the eyes of several people who did not have enough technological understanding to describe what they saw, and they write as they could then interpret it, the physical manifestation of the demon god in heaven, in a rage in the form of a human, animal, or anthropomorphic creature. This was the only possible explanation for what happened by people with their knowledge of that time. Both slabs with the indicated accounts of the ancient priests were discovered during excavations at Thebes in Oyast in the period 1890 to 1920. Large numbers of interesting artifacts were discovered during excavations of the Ramesside era in Oyasta, a city that served not only as a residence of the rulers of Egypt, but also as an administrative center with courts, as well as the temple of the dominant religion of Amun-Ra, or Amon-Ra. In the not-so-distant past, 18 to 1900s, early 20th century, English, French, and German archaeologists competed, driven not least by nationalist zeal to become the leading source of Egyptology for their countries. However, there was often collaboration between these heterogeneous groups of researchers and a great exchange of information. The Egyptian government in the aforementioned years, although it was aware of everything that was happening, in fact, there was an uncontrolled looting and export of archaeological finds abroad, considered hieratic artifacts as not particularly valuable, considering that the Cairo Museum has many examples of hieratic writing. How many exported artifacts were irretrievably lost after being exported to countries with a humid climate such as England? And what had been stored under the sands for thousands of years was destroyed in months. Slabs crumbled and became moldy due to improper storage. Therefore, to counter the accelerated ravages of time, two eminent Egyptologists, Alan Gardner and Yaroslav Cherny, decided in the 1950s to publish a book showing these ancient handicrafts. Hieratica Ostraka Volume 1 appeared in 1957, printed in the UK by Charles Batty for the Griffin Institute at University Press. And in this large book, it depicts 337 parts of the ostraka, professionally and quantitative made copies and prints from the original plates. Copies were made by engineer Meyer, and without this complex and painstaking work that requires complete dedication, most of the content of the ancient text would be lost forever. Ostraka 1 is currently considered lost. It died with the Leipzig Museum during the bombing of the Second World War. Ostraka 2 is today kept in Oxford, England, at the Ashmolean Museum. Hieratic Ostraka Volume 1 does not offer translations, but it's a blank copy given the right to future generations to translate these inscriptions themselves. All cities and provinces mentioned in the report have their original names. Currently, Arabic names are used. European historians and linguists from the 1700s to the present have modified the original Egyptian names and actually represent only the late Ptolemaic or Greek period from Ptolemy. Now, cities and disasters caused by this event are mentioned in the report, but not all cities are listed for brevity and to avoid confusion. Main cities in the report: Oyast, center of the two lands, the area of the huge temple of Amun-Ra, the dominant god Kamti. Oyast was also a city of ships and archives. Anna, an important settlement in the north, was located north of present-day Cairo. Previously, Anna was the capital of Kamti and the home of the sun god Ra. When the government changed, the new capital moved to Oyast. Tartus, a city in the north, in the delta, from 31 degrees to 32 degrees, later called by the Greeks Tanis, is located near the Sma Behut region, Sma Beshut is swampy. There's also the Sma Behut area near the town of Leb Edfu, although it seems that the southern part of Sma Behut is not swampy like the delta and may have been near Henu, a red granite and limestone quarry. The mention of flooding and deaths in Tarta will determine the flooding time. July 29. It's logical to assume that flooding is more likely in an area close to At Ab or the city of Zeb than a path towards northward near Tetu. In any case, the anomaly moved everywhere. The gods: Amun-Ra, the temple of Ra, the sun god Anu, originally of Syrian origin, who is part of Oman, the dominant god of Uasta, who became Amun-Ra, thus uniting the two religions. And while with large temple complexes, Amun-Ra ruled over Anna and the northern cities, as well as Uasta in the south, the influence spread on neighboring countries, Nubia, Kush, and Syria. Amun-Ra has particularly eclipsed other religions, and daily his temples received a lot of livestock, wine, grain, beer, food, and poultry as tribute and offerings. Lesser religions continue to exist. One of the oldest Kamti religions, possibly based on real people in prehistoric times, Osiris Asar, Isis Ost, and Horus Heru, figure in this report and are necessary to illustrate the point of view of the scribe. In short, this belief, Osiris and Isis, husband and wife, Osiris and Isis, husband and wife, ruled. Osiris had a brother, Set. Set, who hates Osiris, tricked, killed, and ultimately dismembered him, scattering body parts throughout the Kamti. Legend has it that many cities were the recipients of these parts. Isis, a good wife, wandered around the country and collected all the parts, and in some unknown way conceived a son, Horus, from the remains of her dead husband. Apparently she was able to get his DNA. Horus in his youth tried to avenge his father's death by looking for his uncle Seth. Bast, Arikesh temples. Bast, the lion-headed goddess, was formerly worshipped as a goddess of cats. Later periods as the lion goddess is identified with the moon, and the name means Bayer Bast, the soul of Isis, hence personification of the soul of Isis. In the city of Ta-Nu-Tart, she was the mother of the god Arikesh, who lived in the temple of the beast of the city. Arikesh, lion god, son of Bast, present in the cities of Ad-Ab, Tantar, Zebut settlement. Bear in the north, the name means to frighten with the eye. The evil eye of Arikesh was well known. The statue of Arikesh in Ta-Na-Tart may have been illuminated inside, allowing the eyes to glow and frighten those who saw it in the darkness. Slab event Ostraka 1. In the south of Kamti County, the city of West, rumors had been circulating for 2 days. Whispers from chapped lips alarm in the scorching wind. Finally, on the evening of the ascent of the star September, which marks the time of the sinking in Shemut, Kaya Scribe, a disciple of the House of Life, the temple of Horus, the son of Isis, saw it. At almost the same time, the temple servant Set saw it too. 2 bright, piercing lights hang motionless in the clear night sky. Kai climbed onto the roof to get a better look at them. He took a papyrus with him and began to sketch and write down what he saw, and there was another scribe with him. In the stories of the people who saw it before him, it was called Shaka, the new ruler of heaven. The name can be translated as destroyer. Like 2 burning eyes, the light was unlike any other. It hovered motionless and menacingly just above the horizon, and they call it not an it but a he. His presence was felt, his hot gaze like a lion in ambush. For half an hour the unknown creature hung in the sky, then slowly began to move into the distance. The next morning, Kai took the recorded information to the temple. The priests in a hurry called everyone at the back of the temple near the plane trees. They placed incense, symbolic arrows, and weapons on the linen-covered offering table. By the middle of the morning, the people of the city began to arrive. other witnesses of that event in heaven with offerings in the hope of pacifying the demon Shaka. And the description of the event on the Ostraka II slab. 30 years later, 60 miles south of Ayast, at Hepst of Thes Hertu, and east of the city called Thi, lay the temple of Horus Behutet, a place known as Netchen. Chem, Ankh, means pleasant life. In a hidden chamber known as Mesnet, just outside the sanctuary, a stone carver and inspired scribe named Behent found something new to copy. Deep in the bottom of a large vessel was a piece of limestone with a letter. Dusting it off, he slowly began copying the message onto another stone in an intricate hieratic script, everything that had been so carefully written down 30 years earlier. A demon in heaven above the holy cities of Anu and Oyast, and two objects 700 kilometers apart. These objects, UFOs, and objects are modern terms that I use in translating to understand what happened, were perfect. What did they mean? This is evil. And why was this piece of limestone so well hidden? Who recorded these events? 1. Scribe Kali, author of Ostraka I around 1203 BC. 2. Scribe Sneffer, court clerk scribe. They have almost the same writing styles. He worked during the reign of Seti II around 1203 BC. Number 3. Scribe Compiler, author and assimilator of the mentioned event from many sources. The compilation was probably initiated and performed immediately after the event for weeks while the memories of the incident were fresh. The original recording, in fact, the basis of Ostraka II, is now lost, but was carefully copied by the scribe Behent 30 years after the event. The copy of Ostraka II was an updated and more complex project, originally based on Ostraka I, although much more extensive. Number 4, Scribe Bekent, stone carver of words and beginner scribe. This scribe copied the work of the scribe of the compiler. Although the scribe Behent made several spelling and typos in his writings, the message is not touched in any way. It's very clear. The scribe Behent is not responsible for the content of the messages of Ostraka II. It's just copied. It was copied about 30 years later. Translation of the report. Greek's Shak means destroyer, pierce, to create, that has the personification of torment, the embodiment of evil, coming out of September, or Sirius, ascent into the heavens around July 29. In the beginning we greeted you with awe as a god. You are big and you have huge eyes in the front. At night your eyes shone brightly, your body is oval, with your mouth sticking out of your tongue. You swallow your servants who appeared from the west. You get angry and release rays of light and shine. Explanation. Eyewitnesses see a very large UFO with bright lights in the sky. The object is disc-shaped. Very bright lights are on the front. Several other smaller UFOs appear from the west, which fly towards the parent UFO and are pulled inward by attracting beams of light. After that, the mother UFO, the mothership, begins to release thin beams of light and increase the brightness of the lights. In the main temple, the high priests were gathered, who performed rituals and brought offerings to Shak the destroyer. This meeting was attended by the scribe Kaya, who recorded everything that happened. Witnesses who saw this demon in the sky were invited, among whom were both ordinary citizens and priests and people of high rank. The witnesses presented their observations. According to the testimony of all who saw it, the exterminator had 2 or more points of illumination. Everyone said they saw a face with burning eyes. There were 2 legs in the tail section. Smaller objects flew to the main object from the west, which it swallowed. The maternal UFO is oval, disc-shaped. The UFO moved across the sky from east to west. Others report that the smaller ships were catching people and animals. Eyewitnesses report that before the capture, the victims had some kind of impact. People grabbed their ears and fell, after which they were taken away. Animals also fell. For humans and animals, demons cut tongues, organ harvesting. The victims did not resist, fell into a state of shock. UFOs appeared in different places night and day around the clock. It first appeared at night, but it was observed at different times of the day. The ships of the destroyer continued to plow the sky, taking people and animals, which the priests considered a slap in the face to the supreme god Amun-Ra. They began to hold ceremonies of worship to the destroyer with entreaties and humility, saying, "If you decide to stay, we will get used to living with you." The main ship of the destroyer constantly changed its shape, color, appearance, brightness of lights. Sometimes it became blurred, masked, its appearance became invisible, and it changed its skin, the reporter said. Moreover, the UFO demonstrated all this openly and even deliberately before the supreme rulers of power. When he quickly picked up speed starting from a place, he cut everything around and caused destruction going into the sky. UFO inflicted physical destruction and injury to people and buildings, not astral but physical destruction. All who saw him associated his appearance with the face with burning eyes located in front. The appearance of the UFO caused awe among people. In addition to burning eyes, searchlights or engines that is, and hind legs, paws, the demon also had a tongue with the help of which he grabbed people, cattle, or objects from the ground. Being in the sky at the time, this language, quote unquote, is describing as can be visible or semi-visible. Apparently, it's about a ray of light attracting objects, attracting ray. Interestingly, the priests arranged ceremonies for offering food to this demon, and the demon took them with the help of his attracting ray. As it happens, demon or destroyer were given that name. If translated into figurative language, we understand it would be like Hellraiser. UFOs appeared in different places unexpectedly. Quote, "When you appear before people in the west, east, north, and south of the sky gods," and quote, the UFO appeared randomly in different places and to the cardinal points. Also, in the text, there is a mention of an interesting feature, pulled out souls, which is why he was associated with demons. Hellraiser constantly moved. The area of its movements reached an area of 700 kilometers. The priests and rulers had fears that the actions of this destroyer would cause religious unrest, since the Egyptian gods did not help the Egyptians get rid of this destroyer creature from the skies. In addition to the destruction of buildings during a sharp start, the abduction of people and animals, the removal of their organs and souls, the mothership caused floods on the ground, which were catastrophic. Thus, it's reported that the object caused flooding in the area of the city of Tar, located in the north near Tetu, and the swampy area of Sma Behut. The scribe in the text talks about the heavenly demon dividing the data into three main parts. 1. Individual dialogue. Speak directly with the demon. Pay attention to his actions. The ability to abduct, cut, hence its dangerous behavior, its intimidating appearance, its ability to return stolen people, livestock, or objects, its ability to cause floods. 2. A description of its physical properties, its appearance, maneuvers, and multidirectional movement. 3. References to the entity's alleged religious origin, an apparent attempt to establish a religion relationship with an unexpected visitor. The information is compiled from several sources, from people traveling along the Nile, messages from various affected cities and towns, temple priests from Anna, Bast, At, Ab, Abu, perhaps all suffered. This invasion from heaven pushed the whole world to reconsider the religious belief systems, and the temple priests were puzzled as to who it is, a god or a demon, and his behavior raised doubts about his divine nature, since he was very cruel to people. Main characteristics of the alien mothership, the alien ship. 1. Front with 2 or more headlights. 2. Rear engine. 3. The ability to travel across the sky in different directions. 4. Transfers objects from the ground to the air to the bottom of the ship. 5. Abductions of people, livestock. Sometimes he returned to kidnap people back. 6. causes terrible fear in observers. It acts with an invisible weapon. People fall, pressing their heads to hands to their ears, and become weak-willed. Number 7, visible both at night and during the day. 8, cuts, victims, and maims. 9, change of form during the day. 10, extremely bright light. 11, abrupt starts causing destruction on the surface of the earth. 12, leaves and returns to the original zone. 13, more than 700 kilometers of the observed area of this object. 14, travels from west to east and from east to west. 15, cause social religious unrest due to the flights and malicious actions of the destroyer. And 16, caused the flood. The listed distinctive features associated with the appearance of this particular object of ancient Egypt with all desire cannot be associated with natural or cosmic phenomena. Even if someone really wanted to present the something described in these texts, for example, by the fact that the Egyptians saw the flight of a comet, all the characteristics of this object listed in the text do not correspond to how comets behave. All these characteristics show that a hostile extraterrestrial beings invaded ancient Egypt who did not perceive people at all as some kind of intelligent creature and treated them accordingly. 1, they maneuvered without worrying about causing destruction in the cities over which they were being performed. 2, they did not care at all about how to reduce the fear of the people from their appearance and actions. 3, they kidnapped people, and they did it using immobilization systems, possibly used some kind of targeted weapon that paralyzed the victims. 4, they slaughtered and gutted people and livestock, making no difference between man and livestock. They took samples and removed the organs. 5, they, by their actions, and deliberately caused serious floods in several areas, as a result of which settlements were damaged and people died. And the author of the study writes, given the above, no comment is out of the question. I think it's wrong to ignore the information written by CAMT scribes in order to defend existing scientific and historical paradigms. Currently, there are many attempts to present all such anomalies in ancient texts as fantasies of ancient people on the theme of demons, myths, and magic. This is the classification of these ancient Egyptian texts. Unfortunately, this attitude is deeply ingrained in the scientific community and difficult to change. Refusal to study from the search for truth, the desire to selectively present information contained in ancient texts and passages taken out of context from the ancient texts, a selective arrangement of historical data in which the true meaning of what is written is hidden, the destruction and concealment of historical data considered outlandish or unscientific, dooms the researcher to defend fictitious pseudoscientific dogmas. Such actions of the scientific community are nothing more than closing the doors of knowledge in favor of comfortable living in the house of mirrors, in which the modern fictional reality is reflected only on itself. Paradoxically, the priests of CAMT were more open to solving the mystery of the Shaka than our scientific institutions of today. The ancient priests, despite the fact that the appearance of this demon endangered the very existence of established beliefs, nevertheless recognize the existence and provide us with a full account of those events. You cannot adjust history to fit your needs. This is completely absurd. Our past is riddled with pseudo-skepticism, as evidenced by the following previous scientific statements. A speed exceeding 145 miles an hour would kill the human body. That's what they believed in 1800. If a person were to fly, God would give him wings. This is what they believed in 1900, and so on. The car has been brought to perfection. There is no place for modifications. And then 1930, they said that. 1930s. So, this is what is the bottom line? The author says, for me, this information was comparable to the feeling of touching the innermost secrets of our history. Just think for just a minute how much these ancient texts are hidden from you and me, How much of their real content is hidden from us? How many such ancient testimonies have already been lost, destroyed, or destroyed intentionally, and for what? For the sake of maintaining an artificially created picture of the world? Is it really worth it, or is it much more serious than it might seem? Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is on Soul Ask. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.